It's in the land. Some people who always can. Don't you know? Burrito.
I don't know why, but that song still makes me chair dance. This is What's Up Flobo After Hours. We're here live in the treehouse, and I'm having a grand old time. Look, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for making this show a thing. But I want to also give a special shout out to those people, members of the Boisterous crew. That's the crew on Patreon. We're talking about Christopher C, Christy H, ACH, Edric P, Oliver E, Matthew C, and Lindsay. You guys make this show a reality. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter, and on Twitch. And if you're listening right now on Twitch, do me a favor, hit that follow button, because I need to get my numbers up. In fact, it was so bad, I actually played video games on Twitch for the first time in a long time. My guest this evening is going to be just a quick second, but if you have a question for her, please let me know in the chat, because I'll be asking her those all evening. And now, without a moment to waste, without further ado, my guest this evening at one time was known as a gal's gal. This host and voice actress has done it all with a flair of old Hollywood. You may see her as a frequent contributor of the JLJ Media Network or featured in the film American Sniper. Please welcome the striking, the noble, the majestic Tami Goveia. How's it going?
Okay, well, I can't follow that up, so thank you for having me, and it's been great. Love y'all.
Good everybody, play me out.
So I have to say, Kirsten Marie was echoing my thoughts. Your theme song is amazing. Is that you singing?
No, it's actually a friend of mine that used to date one of my friends from film school. He's a guitar. His name is Jay Pounders. Jay Pounders and the Brads, I think, at the time. And I said, man, can you give me like a song that sounds kind of like Bon Jovi, but not? And he's like, I can. So it's been like 10 years, but I didn't have a theme song. And I was like, cool, let's roll with it.
No, it's got a great vibe. It's got your vibe. I love it.
I appreciate that. We have questions already piling in. Haywood Wong is in the building. Marcus over there. Haywood Wong is already asking, how is Ernie? I assume significant other?
Yes, hubby as well. Thank you for asking. He's in the next room babysitting the doggies.
Oh, how many dogs do you have?
2,
Oh, okay.
Finley and Lilo. Yes.
Oh wow! Well, but they sound cute.
Very cute. One's a puppy, Lilo's a puppy, and Finley's a senior. So there's some tension between the two of them. Different generations, there's a little generational tension there.
That sounds like the best animated series ever. Haywood Wong's in there, Kirsten Marie is in there, Mark is in there. Thank you so much for rolling here, because I am, I'm a little nervous being so close to greatness, Tami Goveia.
You have to just stop that.
I'm telling you how I feel. I'm telling you how I feel. I'm just expressing myself.
Okay, well, I can't stop you from doing that. I appreciate the expression and communication, but knock it off.
Okay. Well, I am actually a fan of what you do because I don't watch any soaps to save my life, but I've tuned in to your current after shows. Walk me through this. I mean, we were all in the studio at one point in time, and now we're doing it digitally. How do you maintain the hosting powers when you're at home or on a remote or on assignment?
Yeah, well, I think like everyone else, once this whole COVID hit, we just kind of had to figure things out. I mean, the place that I had started as a host after Buzz TV shut down. And so is my earring making a noise?
It's making a noise, but I'm cool with it. Everything's fine, Tami.
I could just do this. So how's that? So after it shut down, everyone was thinking, what are we going to do? I was doing my interviews and doing Edition Days, the recap for Days of Our Lives, and the bold breakdown with James at the studio. And, we realized, guess what? This is the digital age. And so James Lott Jr. had the audacity to start his own network. And, take the shows that he'd created at AfterBuzz and go, well, we're just going to retool a name or a word or two and continue them on. So I was super thankful for that.
Let's talk about this guy, James Lott Jr.
I know. He's like an alien. He's not for real.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot Nah, I said it. I hate puns, but I said it.
Wow, I cannot believe you went there.
You know I hate puns. I was a mistake, but
Oh my
it takes a certain kind of chutzpah to roll with somebody that goes that fast. And so
Yeah,
let me ask your perspective, because sometimes it's hard to describe a hurricane, right? So what was your experience
absolutely.
working with James Lott Jr.?
James is just a bundle of joy. Like it's clear, it's clear that he has a passion for what he does. He has a passion for everything he puts his mind to. And so he's done like 7,000 jobs in his life
Right.
and committed 5,000% to whatever he was doing. And so working with him as a co-host was amazing because that kind of energy is contagious.
Yeah.
It raises the bar as a host to
Right.
work with someone like him because you got to make sure you got your game on and
Okay.
you
Yeah.
got your T's crossed and your I's dotted and you've done your work and you don't go in just you don't dial it in. I never dial it in, but
Right.
you just don't do that with someone like him.
Okay. And the
So,
shows you're working on are in the soap world. Were you always a
yeah.
soap fan, or did you
Oh,
become
I've
one through
always been
this?
a soap fan. Yeah. So always been GH was my first love. That was like when I was in high school, I watched GH, General Hospital.
Okay.
And then, but I was All My Children. It was an ABC thing because you had All My Children and One Life to Live and General Hospital. So it was mostly ABC, but I dabbled into the other ones as the world turns and other soaps. So yeah, to answer your question, I've always been a soap opera gal for sure.
I tell this to all of my soap opera guests I've had on the show. So like my only two exposures to soap operas, the only one I ever watched like for myself was The City, which lasted like it seemed like 2 minutes. It was like Loving, and it spun off into like The City with Morgan
Okay.
Fairchild. But then when I would go visit my extended family in the Caribbean, they will have Days of Our Lives, and I went
Yeah.
in the '90s, but the episodes are from the '80s. So like I would tell you, like the guy from like The Nanny was in it. It was like 10 years
Oh
behind everything
yeah.
else. It was a throwback.
Yes.
What
Mr.
is what?
Shaughnessy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Mr. Sheffield too. What is the staying power? I mean, it's now two, three, maybe even four generations. Some of these shows have
Yeah.
been going on. Like, what keeps them so eternal?
Well, I think to your point, it's generational, and there's nothing else like that on television. Film probably has a similar relationship. Music has a similar relationship where parents or grandparents will introduce music to the children or, will introduce old films to the kids. But television's not like that, at least not from my perspective. It's the soap opera has the ability to say, I watched this show with my mother and my grandmother, and there's that bond and uh, nostalgia.
Yeah,
Nostalgia is a powerful, powerful connection with people. It's a powerful, cathartic experience. Especially with everything going on right now. I think nostalgia and just knowing you can turn on the TV every day at the same time and know what you can expect. It's all formulaic. Soap operas aren't, well, they are groundbreaking in some degree, but for the most part, you kind of know what to expect with soaps. And
right.
it's like comfort food.
Okay. For
Yeah.
those of you listening on the audio version, Tammy to illustrate TV turned a dial, which was such a throwback.
Wow. Okay. Did I do that?
You
Okay. Where's
totally
my
turned a dial.
remote? That's hysterical. I
TV
turned the
on, Alexa.
dial.
But you mentioned, yeah, 2020 was, when people say things are happening, they usually mean that past year, right? How was your 2020? I know it was a little bit of a mixed bag for most of us, but how did you make it out?
I had this conversation with myself earlier, and I do that. I have lots of conversations with myself,
I do too. It's cool.
right? And I will honestly say that I'm actually thankful for the time. I mean, clearly, it's been a very painful and emotional ride for thousands and thousands of people. But I'm going to step into the gratitude space
Sure.
and count my blessings and just be thankful for concepts that I had lived by previously to COVID just got reinforced. The concept of being kind to people, the concept of of being respectful and living a life of integrity. Those have always been like on my mind, and this is how I want to be and who I want to be, and these are the kind of people I want to attract in my life. But COVID really drove that home. Like, if this was a time to ever be kind to somebody, or if this was ever a time to show respect to somebody, or to live a life of integrity, now's a pretty good time to step into all that stuff. So, it's actually been a really affirming time for me.
Did you pick up any like hobbies or like weird interests?
I didn't. I think for like a hot second, I thought about picking up a language but I just know, I've always wished.
I just know.
No, I always wished they had little chips. Like, here's the language of French, and we can, 3 chips you can get implanted with. What do you want to learn how to do?
Yeah.
Okay, another language would be great. I taken guitar in the past and piano in the past and never followed through. So maybe an instrument would be awesome. And so, but no, I didn't learn. Did I learn anything new? Yeah. Well, this stuff.
Hey, that counts.
This stuff. Look what I got recently.
Ooh, oh, it's a Yeti X. What?
Right?
Yeah.
So experimenting with this thing, and
That's awesome. I think a lot of things that I've learned, much like this, like tech stuff too. Like my first thing was a laptop and the camera. I just got a new microphone this weekend. I can sound all velvety. Like it's definitely a growing
Very
progress.
Smooth. Do that again.
So velvety.
Right.
Haywood Wong says, I can see Tami speaking Italian. Come vai.
Oh, yes. When I speak with my hands, people always ask, are you Italian? Because you're like this when you talk.
Yeah. So. Well, are you or no?
No, Portuguese and Irish.
Oh, that's cool. That's a different language there too. It's romance language.
Yeah.
Haywood continues. Tami, what do you think of Tony Moore? Scandalous.
What do I think of Tony Moore? He's the reason. James and I were just having this conversation. He's the reason we're doing what we're doing. So Tony's amazing. I remember because he's the one that brought me on to Edition Days at AfterBuzz.
Yeah.
And I'd never
happy anniversary, by the way. 6 years.
Yeah, 6 years he celebrated. So I'd never hosted anything. And so you were saying being nervous. I was a nervous wreck when I first started hosting that show because I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just kind of watching him and going, can I just be a little bit like you? Because you've been doing this for a little bit longer than me. So he's amazing.
If you go back to that video, it's or these clips of that video are available online, and you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell you were nervous. You know what I mean? There's 2 categories. There's like people who were like actively nervous, or like me when I first started, I just shut down. I was like, hey, but there's no way you can tell. Yeah. So and JLJ Media asks, oh sorry,
what? Go ahead.
How'd you meet Tony?
He put an ad out. I didn't know Tony. We didn't know each other. He put an ad out saying, hey, soap opera fans, anyone a fan of Days of Our Lives and interested in doing a recap show.
Cool.
And so I answered the ad. I think it was like on Host LA, or I forget where he posted it. And so I answered it. And then we had never met. And actually, just because he was like, great, you're it. I had to go through a whole long process through AfterBuzz in order to get on the show. So that whole process was, exactly. That whole process was a thing. And then eventually we met. So the first time we ever met was the first show we ever did together, which was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do. I would not know what to do. Not to say Tony's intimidating or anything, but like you meet someone like without even, because when you haven't met someone and you see an email from them, you kind of think of what they are or their mannerisms, and then you actually meet them. It's like, oh,
I never thought about that, and that's probably a plus for me because I was just focused on let me just get through this process once I'm in, and I was just excited. I don't know. It was just a vibe, I guess. It was just like a gut thing. I knew everything was going to be fine. And I remember Tony saying before we went live, saying, look, we're just talking. We're fans of the show and we're just talking about a show that we love. That's it. Don't be nervous. That's all we're doing. And that was brilliant. It was like, that's what we're doing. We're just talking about a show that we both love. So, okay, cool, let's do it.
Are you usually someone that trusts your gut, or you're more of a logical thinker when it comes to things?
I think as I've gotten older, I've started overthinking things. So I'm really stepping back from that and going back to, well, just the balance.
Okay.
It's just finding that balance. But I've always been an intuitive kind of person, for sure. I live in the ether.
The ether. Are you a SoCal original, or did you move here?
Northern California, San Francisco. Well, born in Santa Rosa.
Oh, Santa Rosa's great. You made it sound like that's like a no-name town. Like, oh yeah, Santa Rosa.
Well, when I was born there, it was a no-name town. But no, you're right. It's a great place. I haven't been back in like 100 years, but moved to SF when I was 3, I think. So I grew up in the city. Yeah.
So someone says like your hometown, you're like San Fran.
San Francisco.
San Francisco. We don't say San Fran here. I get it. I'm sorry. I'm from Brooklyn.
Don't say Fresco.
It's like when people come to Brooklyn, they go the Big Apple. You're like, where? Where is this Big Apple?
Right.
Was hosting the dream back then as a kid, or did you want it to be something else?
So if I look back on my childhood, hosting was always kind of part of it. I would create these little shows in my bedroom, but it was never something that I grew up thinking this is what I want to do. So to answer your question, no. Definitely knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. And so that was, doing the acting thing for a little while. But I think when it came to hosting, I was always at HSN and QVC fan.
Yeah.
So those women on those channels floored me because I knew how hard it was. I knew what they were doing was not easy, but they made it look seamless. And I always thought, oh my God, I wonder if I could do that. And I actually sent HSN an audition tape.
Really? That's just unprovoked?
Yeah. Well, no, they were looking for hosts.
Okay, gotcha.
They were looking for hosts. And my girlfriend's like, oh my God, we have to do this. You have to do this. So I chose a Suzanne Summers product that I had bought off of HSN and, did a little infomercial thing and pretended I had the earpiece in my ear. And then I was talking to the producers like, oh, looks like we only have 25 left in red. So you better call in and get that one in red because we're running low. And so, never got hired.
The attention to detail. That's the difference between good hosts and great hosts, right? Being able to attend to detail. I thought this was a pretty cool story. I saw a clip of you at a recent Beverly Hills dog show, and you interviewed Ariana Mannix. How was that?
Oh my gosh. I was so nervous.
Okay.
I was so nervous to talk to her because I was a fan of the show.
Yeah. Vanderpump Rules for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah. And, a fan of her and Tom. And, I knew she was a doggy lover. So you know what, Flobo? That was it. How I got over the nerves was I focused on the doggy because she had her little fur baby with her.
Yeah.
So I just put all my attention on the fur baby and what we had in common. And once you focus on what you have in common with someone, then all that other stuff, it makes it less complicated.
Yeah, it's almost like a date in that way. Not to make it creepy, but it kind of is that way. You find common ground with someone.
Find common ground. Yeah.
You're not going to believe this, Tammy, but I went to college with Ariana Mannix.
Stop it.
We went to the same school. Yeah, it was Flagler College in North Florida. Now, mind you, 2,000 students. So we all kind of knew each other, but we weren't super close. And it was the mid 2000s, so I had cargo shorts. She wore gaucho pants. It was this weird thing.
I love it.
This is why she follows me, because people will hit me up and go, "Wait, Ariana follows you?" You're like, "Yes," because I knew her since I was like 18 years old.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. And she and Tom had come up with this amazing cocktail book, Fancy AF Cocktails. Have you gotten her book? Have you gotten that book?
I have not gotten her book yet. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to get on the show, Tammy.
I know, right? It's a great book. Go out and get it.
Yeah. So what's the appeal of it? Is it because it's like easy to read? Is it like written? Like what's the deal?
It's a visual book. It's so beautiful. Just the photos, the cover, the photos of the drinks, the photos of she and Tom. It's fancy. It's
Yeah.
fancy AF, and that's what I love.
On
I love
brand.
it.
Haywood Wong asks, what favorite soap actor you got to interview? And I guess actress will count for this one as well.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's a really good question. And when we had the opportunity to work the Daytime Emmys, there were so many amazing interviews. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna, off the top of my brain, I'm gonna say Robert Scott Wilson.
Oh, why is that? Not to say he couldn't, but I'm just curious why.
Because he in his work and as a person, he comes from such a place of passion. It's like James. Whatever he does, he's so passionate about. And
Yeah.
he was working on another project at the time, and we were talking a little bit promoting that as well. And I just love talking to people who love what they do.
Yeah.
And I just remember when we were speaking on the carpet that really made an impression with me. And then when I had the opportunity to interview him and Victoria Konefal at Day of Days, that was magic. That was magic.
I want to give a shout out to Haywood Wong here because he's helped me out in the chat. Because again, I'm not really familiar with
Is he giving you like all the questions?
He's like, think of him as Finn Balor. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, their abs can match. I go, oh, say no more.
So, is that a wrestler?
Yeah, he is. I'm like, yo, like seriously, like, I like the ladies, but I look at Finn Balor's ab set. I'm like, there's no way a man should have so many abs. There's just no way.
Yeah. Rob's he's an alien in that regard. It's like, really? Like,
Yeah.
what? Wow. For sure.
Let's talk about some of this old Hollywood thing. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you about your fandom. I heard through birdies or maybe yourself that you're a fan of TCM, kind of classic movies. You know, get to hang out, watch everything, binge things. Like, what is the appeal for someone who's a little bit on the edge? I'm a lapsed old Hollywood guy. How do you get me back in to loving this part of mid-century history?
Because it's just that it's history. If you like history and you love the connection of how did we get here, you have to go back. And everything
True.
that we've got now can be found in classic Hollywood.
Yeah.
All the groundbreaking technology, there's still. I remember. Oh my gosh, I remember. I had the opportunity. I'd seen Casablanca on television like 100 times, but I had the opportunity to see it in the theater.
Ooh.
It was like 2 years ago, I think, and I realized the power of the film and the cinematic experience that it held for thousands of people. And I think Hollywood's lost a little bit of that. I think that's probably why action films were so popular, because it gave people an experience.
Yeah.
But classic films don't need all the gunfire and the bomb explosions and the cars blowing up, because it focuses on story. If you like a good story, you're going to love classic Hollywood, because that's what they focus on.
What changed? When did classic stop being classic? When did we lose our way?
If you want to talk technicalities, like when is it no longer labeled classic film? I think it stops at like 1963, which to me is like, well, no, because you've got the Thomas Crown Affair in 1968, I think, and that's classic. I love in the 70s. I consider Pretty in Pink, all those films, classic films.
Sure.
But I think the more that money became the bottom line, how much money a film is making, as opposed to let's just tell a good story and find the actors that are willing to share that passion and go along for the ride. I think that's where Hollywood went awry.
Is there any recent movies that make you feel that way? That tingle? That ooh?
What do you mean?
That makes you go like, oh, this reminds me. This one's definitely inspired by that era of Hollywood that's long gone.
Oh gosh. Well, see, here's the problem. I can't tell you the last film that I saw.
Like in general?
Like in general. I mean, like contemporary film that reminds me of
Yeah.
like a good. Um, let me think here.
Because not to compare it, but I feel like a lot of music fans treat hip hop that way. Like it's like
Yeah.
a bus, and at some point of our life, homies just jump off and be like, "Oh, hip hop became whack here." But
Right.
despite that, you go, "Well, I'm not a big fan of modern stuff, but this guy over here is the beast, at least being respectful to the era of hip hop I grew up with." So I didn't
Yeah.
know if there was like a director or a movie that you saw that again. Okay, it's modern sensibilities. You can't shake the money grab, but at least they are trying because they're inspired by that time.
Yeah, well, I've always loved the indie vibe. All of these indie films have been amazing, and the directors, and I love the film festivals because it's such a place to uh, take something raw. Like that's why I love the film of the '70s, because if you look at the film in the '70s, everything was really kind of gritty.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't so polished, and I also think it was a sign of the times. And that's another reason that I love classic Hollywood, is because those films are a sign of the times. Art is a sign of the times, whether it's
absolutely.
music or film or what have you. It's a sign of the times. And that's why I got a little confused with everything going on now. I'm wondering how that's going to be reflected in art.
Right.
And I don't know, like, everything's just been put on hold in regards, obviously, to film and television, that sort of thing. So I'm really
Yeah.
curious how this moment in time is going to be translated.
Yeah. Will there be a Gone with the Wind for 2020? Is the
A
question.
saga of some sort. Oh my God.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a follow. I'm totally understand. Well, I was perusing your YouTube page, which you should subscribe if you haven't already, and I was delighted but dismayed at the same time, Tammy. Table One, fantastic show, but I haven't seen any new
Oh,
episodes. What's the deal?
yeah. That James keeps asking me the same question.
He did not slip me that question, by the way.
He's like, hello, what's up with that? Come on. And what's the answer? Table one is not off the table. It will be resurrected. It will be re-energized. Now just hasn't been the time, but
Absolutely.
there will be more interviews. There will be more people joining me at the table for the art of
Well,
conversation.
would allow me to gush quite a bit. So there's a lot of hosts out there, myself included, that has interview shows here on this internet space. Granted, this is before the pandemic, where we can actually do things, you know.
Yeah,
But what
right.
I liked about your show, and even though it's a simple premise, just two individuals or creative professionals having a chat over beverages or not, there is a little bit of like an intimacy there. Like
Yeah.
you feel as if they're just your old friends all the time, which is a very hard thing to master. People who don't know the hosting craft know that's one of the hardest things to pull off, but you do it effortlessly. And so I
Oh
want to
no.
see more episodes because I want to take notes and how to do it myself. No, I want to see more episodes because look, you're enjoying it.
Well, who do you admire in the hosting world professionally? Who do you want to be like?
That is a deep question. Hey, you can ask me questions. I don't know.
Because when I ask myself, who
Yeah.
who inspires me, like Sam Jones off camera,
Okay.
I love him because he has that ability. I mean, have you seen any of his shows?
I've seen clips of them. Yes.
Okay, so it's black and white, which I love. Two chairs, a table in the middle,
Yeah.
and that's it. And it's like when Tony said to me, "Look, we're just here to talk." And so when you offer that opportunity to just talk,
Yeah.
and when you offer the opportunity to someone that it's a safe space, that's half of it. When someone
Right.
feels safe and excited to just kind of share, that's when all the magic starts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the magic. I love that.
Well, that's it. It says Chasing Magic, which might be the episode title of this show. Let's shift gears a bit. We actually worked together on a project in the voice acting space. Now,
Yeah.
voice acting is something I fell into because James called me up and was like, "You're doing it," and I go, "Okay."
Yeah. Me too.
Oh, really? Oh, welcome.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we just do things.
We just, he's like the Pied Piper. You
I
want us to do
know.
what? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll drink all the Kool-Aid, or was it Fun-Aid or whatever. But walk me through this from your perspective. I mean, if you weren't looking to be a voice actor, what was the pitch like? What was your potential like? Tell me about your first roles. Give it to me.
I've never done voice work before. James was the first time I've ever done voice work. And it was one of those things I thought about doing, but it was like, look, now people are encouraged to do 10 things at once,
Right.
right? When I was growing up, you focused on one thing because you can only do one thing really well. If you do 10 things, then you can't do 10 things really well. They'll all be kind of half-assed.
Right.
But that's not the case anymore. And so when James came around and with his voiceover stuff, it's like, I've always wanted to do it. Just say yes. Practice saying yes, right?
Yeah.
That's stand-up comedy. Just say yes to it.
Yes, and.
Yes, and yes, and. So that's how I fell into it. And I love it. But, I grew up, I remember as a kid, I had a little Mickey Mouse radio.
Okay.
And in San Francisco. And I remember at night, one of the radio stations had radio shows like from back in the day, like 1940s radio shows.
Yeah, radio theater.
And I remember it would be, I'm in my bed, the lights are out, and the radio's going. And I always loved that way of storytelling. It's like having someone read to you, which is why I love authors. It's like, I love it. And so when it came to doing voiceover work, that's what got me excited.
Yeah. It was interesting for me on the same kind of level. Voice acting is something I thought about, but I legitimately hate my voice. But most people do hate their own voices.
Really?
Yeah, it's not like a kid being strangled, at least in my opinion. But it takes me back to an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah.
Where Seinfeld had Alec Baldwin on an episode in a coffee shop. Obviously, that's what a coffee is being served. Duh. But Alec Baldwin says, there's no bureau of show business that's going to knock on your door and say, "Hey, you want to get famous? Come with me." And so if I'm sitting at home with no opportunities and someone calls you up and go, "Hey, try this," I go, "Okay." And I've been in a couple of James's JLJ Media audio dramas. I was in an audio drama years ago for my friend EC Bond, which James, I got connected with him because, like you, he's also a Boricua who makes these audio dramas. But I was like, I felt like an actor. But I don't know how. I guess I don't know how you felt about it, but I felt like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm like learning a new skill. I felt like I was leveling up in a way.
Yeah, no, it definitely works a different part of the brain. Do you have a question? So were you doing interviews in person as well, or is this the space that you've started doing interviews on?
Yeah, yes and no. So there was a time where I was going to have a podcast. I had a podcast. It was called 26 Stone, and for more of an informational background, at my heaviest weight, I weighed 26.9 stone. So it was about taking the first step. And so I took my little microphone and my little laptop and I said, "So tell me about your first step in doing whatever it is it was." And
Nice.
that was old school in that way. I got no views, and so I killed it. With the pandemic and AfterBuzz closing, there was really a decision because it went on hiatus in the middle of the summer. So it was like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to do after shows? Am I going to do my own thing? And the answer is yes. So I think the pandemic and AfterBuzz closing kind of ramped this up. Like I have 8 shows in total, as opposed to James's 34. but I would say I had experience of doing it beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about the whole doing interview thing, and I so miss. I love doing interviews, but I miss the in-person experience of doing interviews.
Yeah.
It's just frankly, it's not the same doing it digitally. Um, I miss that in-person stuff a lot. So I'm looking forward to when spaces open up again.
Yeah. Is it the eye contact? Is it the feeling the aura? Is it just inside jokes? Is it nonverbal communication? Like,
It's the person's there. The person is right there. It's not like Flobo, where are you?
Tami. Yeah. Totally understand.
Yeah,
Totally
you know
understand.
what I mean.
Yeah. JLJ says
Yeah.
I miss it too.
Oh my God.
Just put a button on this. The Peppermint Winters character, totally enjoyed it because I get to work opposite Peppermint Winters as Darrell Light, a man
Yeah.
who is written to not say much, but by the end of it talks a whole lot. I don't know. James has me as the most talkative mute character
I
in
can't wait
cinema.
to hear what Darrell has to say.
Yeah, I mean it was cool. Even though we were in this virtual space, it was cool talking and working off of you just to see how where chemistry comes from as far as like our whole story, and that was pretty awesome. I guess I felt like a real actor there too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great because James kind of created a jam session where you could just kind
Yeah,
of go off on a riff here and da 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 and like boom, 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 boom and see what lands and what didn't. And
yeah.
I love that. Yeah. It's very creative.
Tim, let me ask you a question, and you don't have to have an answer here. But do you do resolutions or yearly goals, and if so, what are they?
No, I don't. And I've been thinking about that. It's like, I hate that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like,
That
I
question
don't
sucks. I will
know.
never ask that question.
That's so annoying.
I had an old comedy bit, which is not funny because it's a comedy bit and I'm saying it weird. But I would say, "What do you want me to do? Pull out my PowerPoint?" You know what I mean? And just have this whole chart, you know. But continue.
Resolutions. No, I'm not
Yeah.
that type.
So you
No.
just kind of live the day best you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Respect.
What about you?
So I try to have my resolutions are very not easy to clear. I don't have like big resolutions like I'm going to lose weight because then you fail those and then you blame resolutions. So like my resolutions are like, yeah, I'm gonna walk in addition to my running or whatever. But I do yearly goals. Every New Year's Eve, I write down 15 to 20 things of different difficulties that I want to get covered in that year. A yearly bucket list, if you will. So like I have ones I can't do right now, like become a millionaire. But then I have easy ones like run 20 miles a week that I can like, do in my sleep or
Easy
whatever.
ones. Oh my God.
There's 7 days. You can walk to the grocery store and back and be covered.
But I get the vibe that you're a planner.
I'm a planner, but with instinct. So like people have told me that before. So I've gone to like vacations, and I don't like to travel for fun. Like I don't. If let's say I have a trip to Portugal, that's the one place I want to visit besides Tokyo, besides Australia. I want to go to Lisbon. I want to see Lisboa. Right? Bam. If I go there, I want to have 2 or 3 things planned. I don't want to have a daily schedule. Those are annoying. If I say, hey, look, I want to see the water, I want to see some of the buildings, I want to check out a casino, I'm good. If I go to a country on business, I enjoy it. But I can't fly to an island and just sit there for a week. That makes me go nuts.
Really?
Yeah, is that weird?
Because you don't feel productive or
I'm not sure if I don't feel productive or maybe because of kind of like, well, maybe active relaxation. I feel like I could be relaxing while doing something or eating American food or whatever. Like so the workaround is to book 2 weeks someplace and have one afternoon of work.
there you go.
Like I had bought a ticket to Japan in April of last year, and it obviously didn't happen. And I was there for about only be there for 10 days, but I had booked a comedy show like right in the middle of it, so I felt like I had something to work towards when I was in
Yeah.
Japan. So yeah, JLJ Media says like I like to go and not plan. You know what? You plan things all the time, you organizer. Don't listen
I
to me.
know. That's why he likes to go and not plan. No, yeah, I'd like to. Here's something I'd like to do. Just go to the airport, look up, and say, "Okay, we are going to go here." And get on the
Yeah,
plane and go.
Doesn't matter what continent, what country.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Is there a
like-
country that would get like bumped up? Like if it was like in between like Japan and or if it was like between like say I don't know Lithuania and like South Africa, like it's right in the middle. Was there any that would like nudge you anyway or?
You know, there are two places that I've always wanted to go to. And I don't know why. The first one, I don't know why, but I've always been intrigued with Vietnam. I have no desire to go to Japan or China or, but Vietnam for some reason. And I'll probably know why when I go.
Deep. Yeah.
I've always been curious about Eastern Europe. So, maybe Prague
Ooh.
would
Or as
be
Kanye West calls it, Prague.
ragu. But yeah, I have a lot of traveling I need to do. So that's definitely it was funny because I was in the process of renewing my passport before COVID hit. And I remember finally getting it in the mail like 3 months later. It's like, well, I can't go anywhere, but my passport's ready.
This sure looks nice.
Yeah.
Derek Fisher says, I just go to Hawaii or Seattle. I have family there, so I don't have to go to tell. You have family from Hawaii, correct?
Yeah, we've got some folks in Hawaii. My dad was born and raised there. But most of my family is out here,
Okay.
up north. Yeah.
All right, awesome. That's another place I would like to check out. I mean, it's a state, so I guess that's like low priority. So domestic, whatever. I'll get there eventually. Tami Goveia, are you ready to play a game?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'll do it. It's painless.
We had this conversation.
It's painless. I swear to you, it won't be anything too deep. This one is called The Last Time. So I'm gonna ask you a bit of rapid fire questions, but the last time you did or experienced something, and let me know what that is. You can pass a question if it makes you uncomfortable. You can expound as much as you want, and if you just have one word answers, that's okay.
The last time?
Yeah.
All right.
Or the last thing, or the last one ever. Cool. What was the last thing you ate, and what was it?
The last thing I ate was Thomas's English sourdough muffin with butter and peanut butter.
Okay. Was it
Toasted. Yeah.
cheat day? Was it cheat day?
Yeah, it was a cheat day.
Because that sounds like a cheat day snack. Like that, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I had like an hour or so ago. Like, I need something. What do I want?
Yeah. What was the last time you had a self-care day? What was it?
A self-care day. Wow. I probably want to say it was a couple of weeks ago. Self-care for me means being by myself. So there's a coffee place by where we live called Marie at Sea.
Oh.
And so I was just going over there and getting some coffee, walking, because it's literally within walking distance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that was the last time. Probably a couple weeks ago.
Kirsten Marie says, sounds delicious. I know it sounds delicious. Yay.
It sounds delicious.
Derek Fisher says, sourdough is my favorite of all the breads.
I
Mine
love
is too.
sourdough. Oh my God.
What I opted to go to bat for, but I agree. What was the last book you recommended to a friend?
The last book I recommended to a friend, it's funny because it was a Gothic romance that I read, Dark Vengeance. Ooh. And, it was obviously she loves Gothic romances. So I highly recommended it to her. I love those formulaic romance books. So Dark Vengeance. Yep.
The best recipes are usually the most simplest ones.
Right.
What was the last thing you told your significant other?
What was the last?
The last thing you told your significant other.
What did I say to him before I came in here?
Pipe down, I'm recording. No, I'm just kidding.
I said, okay, I'm off to do the podcast. He's like, oh, I thought you were going to sleep. And I'm like, no, I told you. Remember, I was doing this thing tonight with Flobo. He's like, oh, that's right, the late night talk show guy. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I have a thing. Yes.
The last thing I said to him.
What's the last thing you do before going to bed?
The last thing I do before going to bed, I moisturize.
Okay. People underestimate that. That's
Moisturize
important.
neck, coconut oil, moisturize. Yes.
Coconut oil. That's a pro tip.
Yes.
Okay.
I
What
love coconut oil.
what was the last time you had fun?
Last time I had fun. Um, fun is so fun. It's relative. I love to sleep. So
You just
that to
passed
me
out
is
raving?
fun. So when I can nap, because with this little like head cold thing, when I have
Yeah.
the opportunity to just be on the couch and turn TCM down to just like volume 2, where I can just barely hear it, but I know it's playing, and
Yeah.
I've got my little blankie and I've got the little doggies bookending me,
Yeah.
that is like it. That was it. So last time I did that was probably a few days ago.
Aw. When's the
Yeah.
last time you felt famous?
Um,
It could be as simple as like getting an extra fry in your meal. Like it doesn't have to be like, well, my name was in a billboard somewhere.
right. So extra fry. Well, I do have a McDonald's experience, which was probably like 2 weeks ago, and it was
Yeah.
literally like, your customer number, blah blah blah. So you get a free. Your quarter pounder is free tonight, which was really cool.
What?
So
A quarter pounder. Wow.
it was like it went from $17 to $12. So I was really excited.
Yeah. And finally, what's the last thing you did for charity?
Last thing I did for charity. Um, it's not right. I don't know. I don't like to talk about what I did for charity.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, just do
Sometimes
my own. Yeah, just do
it's a
my own
personal
thing.
thing. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Like, I would say I do Amazon Smile. Sometimes I don't know if that
yeah.
counts or not. But like, my dad, for 35 years worked for New York City Transit.
Wow.
He was a subway supervisor, repairman supervisor, became a deputy superintendent, a suit or whatever. And when I graduated college, he like trolled me by donating to my same college every year. So I troll him by donating to the transit museum because
That's
he hates that
awesome.
job. So we have these dueling charities. Like, I just put in $7, Dad. You're up. Like it's this weird, stupid thing we do. You
I
know?
love it. It's a
Yeah.
good story.
It's weird. So yeah, it's always good to have a little portfolio of things just in case you blow up. You know what I'm saying? So now I still have time with lockdown. I mean, I always thought I would be busy, but I still have a couple hours here. What are some films to check out from that time period? Now I've got to make sure I have my new list of films, hidden gems maybe that I'm missing.
Yeah. Well, do you have any particular actors that you like from that genre, or you're just,
Can,
or any particular kinds of films that you like? Do you like suspense? Do you like comedies? Do you like musicals? Like any
I like the Chef Special. Give me one of
chef
each.
special? Okay.
Yeah.
So my favorite musical is Singing in the Rain.
Oh, mine too. What?
What?
Yo, for real. Like a lot of the modern ones are okay, but Singing in the Rain had action, it had
No,
romance, it had like
Singing in the
it was
Rain.
crazy.
It's just so
Yeah.
beautiful. The color in that film is just like gorgeous.
That's what I'm talking about, Tammy.
So you've already seen it though. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Changed my life, man.
now Voyager is my favorite Betty Davis film.
Okay. I haven't seen that one.
So that's with Claude Rains and Paul Henri. Definitely love that. For a comedy, I love Sunday in New York
Mm.
with Jane Fonda, Rod Taylor. Who plays her brother and her boyfriend? Anyway, Sunday in New York.
Okay.
It's a fun little romantic romp, and Jane Fonda and Rod Taylor are just freaking gorgeous, and super
Oh,
cute.
gonna write that down, or at least play it back and check it out. I think I have a membership at TCM here somewhere. JLJ Media says Sing in the Rain's amazing, and the Thin Man series. No one asked you, Jay. It's
Thin
not
Man.
your
Oh
show.
my
No.
god, I love the Thin Man series. Totally.
I love it. Yeah. So if you have any other film recommendations in the chat, let me know because I got to go back and talk. Because I'm actually a film school graduate. I'm just the worst at those kind of things.
Okay.
It's always some things I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get to it. I swear to y'all, I'm totally gonna do it, but I never get around to it.
Well, if you want some stylistic stuff. I mentioned the Thomas Crown Affair. If you haven't seen that with Steve
Yeah.
McQueen,
Yeah.
then you should see it.
Okay.
The original.
I have
mean,
not
they
seen the
did
original.
remake.
I've seen
Yeah.
the remake
Yeah,
with
no.
Rene Russo and
No,
Pierce Brosnan.
no.
They were in the movie,
No.
Tammy. Dang.
No.
No, it's them, but no.
It's like when they did the remake of Sabrina. Like, no,
Oh yeah.
you
Okay,
don't do that.
that begs the question then: what version of My Fair Lady is your favorite? That's right. I said it. I do Pride and Prejudice.
I know, right? and they did come on, the Bradley Cooper and Gaga.
Oh, Star is Born.
Yes, there's like 1,000 versions of The Star Is Born. Did you see that?
Not the last one. Not the
last one? I actually liked it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ernie had never seen the movie, so he didn't know what to expect. So when you know what to expect, it's like, oh, there's a lot to work up to. But I really liked the version.
Was he like surprised, pleasantly surprised? Did he like it too?
He was just wrecked by it.
Oh yeah.
He really loved it. No, he really did love it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because when I saw Stars Born, I was expecting like, I guess Dreamgirls, but it wasn't that. I was like, one night only. And it was like, oh, this is not the movie I had in my mind.
Yeah, no.
There should be a warning label for that. So we talked about hosting, we talked about all that stuff. Before we get out of here, I have one more question for you. And
Yes.
I mean, again, I know I'm not narcissistic, even though I kind of am. But the question I have for you is, what does legacy mean to you, and what would legacy for Tami Goveia be once you go on to the grand store in the sky? What do you want people to know about your work? Do you want a statue built in your honor, a wing in a children's hospital? How should we best remember your stuff right now?
I think that's probably why I love classic film, is because of the voice that it's left behind. And so I want my voice to have made an impact in people's lives. And part of that is creating a space for other voices to be heard.
Yeah,
So that's the legacy.
I like it.
Voices being heard.
I'll just delete my statue request then. Awkward.
I would like a portrait. So there's another movie called Laura.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Laura? It's
I
one
haven't
of the
seen
great
Laura.
film noir films. I would like to have a portrait, a self-portrait of myself done.
Yeah. Do you
And
have an
James
artist
is
in mind?
probably laughing because in the soap opera world there are like there
Right.
are famous portraits of characters. I would like a self-portrait done.
Do you have an
would
artist
say
in mind, or just?
I have no idea.
Okay, I don't know if you're like, I want a self-portrait made by this person, but
No.
just overlooking the mantle. And those smiling faces. Tami Goveia, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
No,
I've never done anything like this, so thank you.
Oh, we should do it again then. Why not? Well, if someone, JLJ Media says I have a portrait of myself, I bet you do. I bet you do. Where can the world find you online? Subscribe to your stuff, watch you weekly, become fans of what you can do.
Instagram, Tami.Goveia, and on Twitter, Tami Goveia. Also, Tami Goveia Official on Facebook.
Oh, official. That's dope.
It's official.
Yeah. And of course, this is me, Flo Pizza. You can follow me online at flopizza.com or at Flobo Boyce on social media. That does it for this edition of What's Up Flobo After Hours. Tune in next week where my guest will be host of More Please, Tony Moore. But until next time, After Hours are closed. Bye.
The baddest in the land. Someone who always can. Don't you know?